in the heart of one of the world's most secure palaces, where secrets worth millions are whispered in gilded corridors, a tiny device no bigger than a coin was about to bring down an empire of lies. What started as a routine security check by Princess Anne's most trusted guard would uncover a conspiracy that reached into the very foundations of the royal household. Someone had been listening to every private conversation, every confidential meeting, every intimate family discussion for months. But who was behind this unprecedented breach of royal privacy? And what dangerous secrets had already been stolen? The truth would shock even the most seasoned palace insiders and prove that in the modern age, nowhere is truly safe from prying ears, not even the private chambers of royalty. Detective Sergeant Michael Harrison had been protecting Princess Anne for 7 years, but he had never felt the chill that ran down his spine on that grey Tuesday morning in November. It was supposed to be a routine sweep of the princess's private office at Gatcombe Park, her country residence in Gloucestershire. The autumn wind rattled the old windows as Michael methodically checked each corner of the room with his electronic detection equipment, a weekly ritual that had become as natural as breathing. The device in his hand, a sophisticated piece of technology that could detect radio frequencies and hidden recording devices, had been silent throughout the morning. He moved it slowly along the ornate wooden panels that lined the princess's study, listening to the familiar quiet hum that indicated all was well. The room smelled of leather-bound books and the faint lavender perfume that Princess Anne favored. Sunlight filtered through heavy curtains, casting long shadows across the Persian carpet. Michael paused near the antique mahogany desk where the princess conducted her most private business. This was where she reviewed confidential documents about her charitable work, made sensitive phone calls about family matters, and held meetings with trusted advisors about matters that could never reach the public eye. The desk had been a gift from the Queen Mother decades ago, and its intricate carvings told stories of royal history. As he moved the detector along the desk's edge, something changed. The steady hum shifted to a sharp, insistent beep. Michael's heart rate quickened as he realized what this meant. In all his years of service, the detector had never found anything more suspicious than an old radio left on in a distant room. But this was different. The beeping grew louder and more urgent as he moved the device closer to the desk's left side. His hands trembling slightly, Michael knelt down and examined the area more carefully. The beeping was coming from somewhere near the desk's base, hidden among the ornate carvings that decorated its legs. He ran his fingers along the wood, feeling for anything unusual. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with every curve and detail perfectly carved by master artisans more than 50 years ago. Then he felt it. Something that didn't belong. Hidden within one of the decorative rosettes carved into the desk leg was a small, hard object that felt distinctly modern against the aged wood. It was barely noticeable, painted to match the wood's color, and positioned so cleverly that only the most thorough search would uncover it. Michael's training kicked in immediately. He knew better than to touch or remove anything until the proper authorities could be called. This was no longer a routine security check. This was a potential breach of royal security that could have catastrophic implications. He carefully photographed the area with his phone, making sure to capture the device's exact position and surroundings. The implications of his discovery began to sink in as he stood up and stepped back from the desk. Someone had gained access to one of the most secure locations in the royal estate and planted a sophisticated listening device in the princess's private office. This wasn't the work of a curious tabloid journalist or an opportunistic amateur. The device's placement showed professional knowledge of surveillance techniques and an intimate understanding of the room's layout. Michael immediately activated his emergency communication protocol. Princess Anne was currently in London attending a charity board meeting, but she would need to be informed as soon as possible. The device could have been transmitting conversations for weeks, months, or even longer. Every private phone call, every confidential meeting, every sensitive discussion that had taken place in this room could have been compromised. As he waited for the response team to arrive, Michael's mind raced through the possibilities. Who could have gained access to plant such a device? The list of people with unrestricted access to Princess Anne's private office was extremely limited. It included household staff who had been with the family for decades, trusted advisors who had undergone the most rigorous background checks, and a select few family members and close friends. The thought that the breach might have come from within the trusted inner circle was almost too disturbing to consider. Michael had worked closely with these people for years. He had shared meals with them, attended their family celebrations, and trusted them with his own safety, as well as the princess's. The idea that one of them could have betrayed that trust was deeply unsettling. The response team arrived within 30 minutes, a testament to the efficiency of royal security protocols. Detective Inspector Sarah Chen, head of the Special Protection Unit, led the team. She was a sharp, experienced investigator who had handled several high-profile security breaches in the past. Her reputation for thoroughness and discretion had earned her the trust of the royal family and the respect of her colleagues. Sarah examined the device carefully using specialized magnification equipment. Her expression grew increasingly serious as she studied its design and placement. The device was more sophisticated than anything she had encountered in previous cases. It was designed to be virtually undetectable, using advanced materials and miniaturized technology that suggested significant financial resources behind its creation. The technical specialist on the team, a quiet man named David Wong, used specialized equipment to analyze the device's transmission capabilities. His findings were deeply troubling. The device had been active for at least 3 months, potentially longer. It had been transmitting on a frequency commonly used by professional intelligence services, suggesting that this was far more than a simple invasion of privacy. The device's battery life and transmission range indicated that it was part of a sophisticated surveillance operation. Someone had been receiving detailed intelligence about Princess Anne's activities, conversations, and plans for months. The implications for royal security and national security were staggering. Sarah made the difficult decision to expand the search to other areas of Gatcombe Park. If one device had been planted so expertly, there could be others. The team began a comprehensive sweep of the entire residence, paying particular attention to areas where sensitive conversations typically took place. The dining room, the library, the private sitting room, and Princess Anne's bedroom all received thorough examination. As the search expanded, more disturbing discoveries emerged. In the private sitting room, another device was found hidden inside an antique clock that had been a wedding gift to Princess Anne decades earlier. This device was even more sophisticated, equipped with technology that could distinguish between different voices and transmit only when specific individuals were speaking. The discovery of the second device confirmed Sarah's worst fears. This wasn't a random act or a one-time breach. Someone had conducted a systematic infiltration of Princess Anne's private spaces, installing multiple listening devices in locations that would capture the most sensitive information. The level of planning and execution suggested professional operatives with extensive resources and inside knowledge. Michael felt a deep sense of personal failure as more devices were discovered. Protecting Princess Anne wasn't just his job, it was his calling. He had dedicated his life to ensuring her safety and privacy, and now it appeared that both had been compromised under his watch. The trust that the princess had placed in him felt heavy and precious, and he was determined to find out how this breach had occurred and who was responsible. The team worked through the afternoon, carefully documenting each device and its location. By evening, they had found a total of 4 listening devices strategically placed throughout the residence. Each one was a masterpiece of surveillance technology, designed to capture maximum information while remaining completely hidden from normal security checks. As news of the discovery reached Princess Anne in London, the gravity of the situation became clear to everyone involved. This wasn't just a violation of royal privacy, it was a potential threat to national security. The conversations that had been monitored could include sensitive information about government policies, state secrets, and personal details about the royal family that could be used for blackmail or political manipulation. The investigation had only just begun, but already it was clear that uncovering the truth would require resources and expertise beyond normal police capabilities. This was a case that would test the limits of royal security and challenge everything they thought they knew about protecting the monarchy in the modern age. Princess Anne's immediate reaction, when informed of the breach, was characteristic of her practical and determined nature. Rather than expressing shock or distress, she focused on the next steps needed to identify the perpetrators and prevent future breaches. Her first concern was for the safety and security of her staff and family members who might also have been targeted. The evening brought no rest for the investigation team. As darkness fell over Gatcombe Park, they continued their meticulous work, knowing that every hour of delay could mean more compromised information or the loss of crucial evidence. The devices had been transmitting for months, and there was no way to know what sensitive information had already been captured and who might have access to it. Michael remained at his post throughout the long night, his mind churning with questions and possibilities. Someone had violated the sanctuary that Princess Anne had worked so hard to maintain. Someone had invaded the one place where she should have been able to speak freely without fear of surveillance or judgment. Finding out who was behind this betrayal had become more than just professional duty. It had become a personal mission that would consume his thoughts and drive his actions in the days to come. The morning after the discovery brought with it a sense of urgency that permeated every corner of the royal security apparatus. Detective Inspector Sarah Chen, found herself at the center of what was rapidly becoming one of the most complex security investigations in recent royal history. Her temporary command center, established in a secure room at Scotland Yard, buzzed with activity as specialists from various departments worked to unravel the mystery of who had been listening to Princess Anne's private conversations. The 4 listening devices recovered from Gatcombe Park sat in sealed evidence bags on Sarah's desk, each one representing a piece of a puzzle that grew more complicated with every hour of investigation. The technical analysis had revealed disturbing details about their sophistication and capabilities. These weren't devices that could be purchased from any commercial supplier or assembled by an amateur with basic electronics knowledge. Dr. James Mitchell, the government's leading expert on surveillance technology, had spent the night examining the devices in his specialized laboratory. His report, delivered to Sarah first thing in the morning, painted a picture that was both impressive and deeply concerning. The devices represented state-of-the-art technology that was typically available only to major intelligence services or well-funded criminal organizations. Each device contained components that were manufactured in different countries, suggesting a deliberate effort to obscure their origin and make tracing their source nearly impossible. The circuit boards showed precision craftsmanship that indicated access to advanced manufacturing facilities. The battery technology was cutting-edge, designed to last for extended periods without requiring replacement or recharging. Most troubling of all was the discovery of advanced encryption capabilities built into each device. The signals they transmitted weren't simple audio feeds that could be intercepted and decoded easily. Instead, they used military-grade encryption that would require significant computational resources and expertise to crack. This suggested that whoever was behind the surveillance operation had access to both sophisticated technology and considerable financial resources. Sarah's investigation team had expanded overnight to include specialists from the Metropolitan Police's Counter-Terrorism Unit, MI5's Domestic Intelligence Division, and the Royal Protection Squad's most experienced investigators. The case had been classified at the highest levels of security clearance, with access limited to only those with an absolute need to know. The first major breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Emma Thompson, Princess Anne's head housekeeper for the past 15 years, had approached Michael Harrison with information that she had been hesitant to share initially. Emma was a trusted member of the household staff, known for her discretion and loyalty to the princess. Her decision to come forward demonstrated the seriousness with which she regarded the security breach. Emma had noticed something unusual 3 months earlier, around the time that the technical analysis suggested the devices had been installed. A new member of the catering staff had been working at several events held at Gatcombe Park. The man, who had introduced himself as Thomas Bradley, had seemed professional and competent, but something about his behavior had struck Emma as odd. During a charity luncheon in August, Emma had observed Thomas spending an unusual amount of time in areas of the house that weren't related to his catering duties. She had seen him near Princess Anne's private office during a period when all catering staff should have been focused on kitchen duties. At the time, she had attributed his presence to curiosity about the historic house, but in light of recent discoveries, his behavior took on a more sinister significance. The catering company that had employed Thomas Bradley was a well-established firm that had provided services to various royal events for over a decade. When Sarah's team contacted the company's management, they discovered that Thomas Bradley's employment records contained several inconsistencies that hadn't been noticed during the hiring process. His references checked out initially, but deeper investigation revealed that the companies he claimed to have worked for had no record of his employment. His background check had somehow passed through the normal security screening process, despite these gaps in his employment history. This suggested either a sophisticated false identity or corruption within the vetting process itself. The investigation into Thomas Bradley's true identity became a priority for Sarah's team. Facial recognition technology was used to search through databases of known criminals, intelligence operatives, and persons of interest to various law enforcement agencies. The results were troubling. The man who had called himself Thomas Bradley appeared to have connections to several aliases used by individuals suspected of involvement in international espionage activities. Meanwhile, the technical investigation into the listening devices had revealed additional concerning information. The devices had been programmed with sophisticated voice recognition software that could identify specific individuals and prioritize their conversations for transmission. Princess Anne's voice pattern had been programmed as the highest priority, but the system also recognized the voices of several other individuals who regularly visited Gatcombe Park. Among those whose voices had been specifically programmed into the surveillance system were several government ministers, senior military officers, and other members of the royal family. This suggested that the operation was designed to gather intelligence on a wide range of sensitive topics, from government policy discussions to private family matters that could be used for political advantage or blackmail. The scope of the potential intelligence breach was staggering. Over the 3 months that the devices had been active, Princess Anne had hosted numerous private meetings and phone calls that touched on matters of national importance. Her role as a working member of the royal family often involved discussions about sensitive charitable work, military matters related to her position as patron of various armed forces organizations, and family issues that could have significant political implications. Sarah's team began the painstaking process of reconstructing what conversations and meetings had taken place during the period when the surveillance devices were active. Princess Anne's private secretary, Margaret Foster, provided detailed records of the princess's schedule and the topics discussed during various meetings. The potential for compromise was extensive, covering everything from military funding decisions to private conversations about government policies. The investigation took another significant turn when technical analysis revealed that the listening devices had been transmitting their signals to a sophisticated relay system located somewhere within a 10-mile radius of Gatcombe Park. The strength and direction of the signals suggested that the receivers were positioned strategically to capture transmissions from multiple sources simultaneously. A systematic search of the area began immediately, using advanced radio frequency detection equipment and aerial surveillance to locate the transmission relay points. The search focused on abandoned buildings, remote areas with clear sightlines to Gatcombe Park, and locations that would provide easy access for equipment maintenance while remaining hidden from casual observation. The first relay point was discovered in an abandoned farm building approximately 6 miles from Princess Anne's residence. The equipment found there was as sophisticated as the listening devices themselves, capable of receiving multiple encrypted signals, processing them through advanced computer systems, and retransmitting them to destinations that were much farther away. The discovery of the relay point provided crucial evidence about the scale and sophistication of the surveillance operation. The equipment represented a significant financial investment and required expertise in advanced communications technology to install and operate. This wasn't the work of casual eavesdroppers or amateur intelligence gatherers. Computer forensic specialists began examining the relay equipment for any evidence that might reveal its origins or destinations. Hard drives contained encrypted data that would take considerable time and resources to decrypt, but preliminary analysis suggested that the information had been transmitted to multiple locations, possibly including foreign destinations. The international implications of the case became clear as more evidence emerged. The level of sophistication and the apparent involvement of foreign intelligence operatives suggested that this was more than just a criminal invasion of privacy. It appeared to be a systematic intelligence operation designed to gather sensitive information about British government activities and royal family private affairs. Sarah found herself coordinating with international law enforcement and intelligence agencies as the scope of the investigation expanded. The trail of evidence was leading to connections with organizations and individuals in several countries, each link revealing new layers of complexity in what had initially seemed like a straightforward security breach. Princess Anne's response to the expanding investigation demonstrated her characteristic strength and determination. Rather than retreating from her public duties or allowing the security breach to disrupt her charitable work, she insisted on maintaining her normal schedule while cooperating fully with the investigation. Her primary concern remained the safety and privacy of her staff and family members who might also have been targeted. The princess's calm and practical approach to the crisis became a source of strength for her protection team and household staff. Her refusal to be intimidated by the surveillance operation sent a clear message that she would not allow security threats to dictate how she lived her life or conducted her royal duties. As the second week of investigation began, Sarah's team had assembled a complex picture of a sophisticated intelligence operation that had successfully penetrated one of Britain's most secure locations. The case was far from solved, but the evidence was building toward a confrontation with individuals and organizations that operated at the highest levels of international espionage. The listening devices had been just the beginning of what appeared to be a much larger operation designed to gather intelligence on British government activities and royal family private affairs. The true scope of the breach and the identity of those responsible remained to be uncovered, but Sarah was determined to follow every lead until the truth was revealed and those responsible were brought to justice. The investigation had already revealed serious vulnerabilities in royal security protocols that would need to be addressed immediately. The fact that sophisticated surveillance devices had operated undetected for months raised questions about current security procedures and the need for more advanced counter-surveillance capabilities. As evidence continued to accumulate, one thing became increasingly clear. Uncovering the full truth about who had been listening to Princess Anne's private conversations would require resources and expertise that stretched the capabilities of traditional law enforcement. This was a case that would test the limits of British intelligence and security services in their efforts to protect the monarchy from modern espionage threats. 3 weeks into the investigation, Detective Inspector Sarah Chen found herself staring at a wall covered with photographs, documents, and connecting lines that told the story of one of the most sophisticated espionage operations ever uncovered on British soil. The quiet conference room at Scotland Yard had become the nerve centre of an investigation that now involved multiple international intelligence agencies and threatened to expose security vulnerabilities that went far beyond Princess Anne's compromised privacy. The breakthrough that changed everything came from an unexpected source. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a cybersecurity specialist from the National Cybersecurity Center, had been analyzing the encrypted data recovered from the relay station when she noticed something that had been overlooked in the initial technical examination. Hidden within the device's firmware was a unique digital signature that served as a kind of technological fingerprint. This signature, invisible to standard analysis but detectable through advanced cryptographic techniques, matched patterns that had been identified in previous investigations involving a shadow organization known only by the codename WhisperNet. Intelligence agencies across Europe had been tracking WhisperNet's activities for over 2 years, but the group had proven remarkably elusive, always staying one step ahead of law enforcement efforts. WhisperNet specialized in high-value intelligence gathering, targeting government officials, business leaders, and prominent public figures across multiple countries. Their operations were characterized by the same sophisticated technology and meticulous planning that had been evident in the Princess Anne surveillance case. The connection suggested that the royal surveillance wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a much larger intelligence network. The revelation that they were dealing with WhisperNet elevated the case to the highest levels of British intelligence. MI6's counterintelligence division, led by the enigmatic director James Whitmore, took operational control of the investigation while maintaining Sarah's team as the primary investigative unit. The resources available to the investigation expanded dramatically, including access to international intelligence sharing networks and advanced surveillance technologies. Intelligence files on WhisperNet revealed a pattern of operations that stretched across Europe and North America. The organization appeared to be a private intelligence service that sold high-value information to the highest bidder, regardless of nationality or political affiliation. Their client list, according to intercepted communications analyzed by various agencies, included foreign governments, multinational corporations, and wealthy individuals seeking leverage in business or political dealings. The sophistication of WhisperNet's operations was matched by their compartmentalized structure, which made infiltration and identification of key personnel extremely difficult. Members of the organization appeared to operate independently, using encrypted communication systems and dead-drop locations to coordinate activities without direct contact. This structure made the organization remarkably resilient to law enforcement penetration. Analysis of Thomas Bradley's true identity revealed that he was actually Viktor Petrov, a former military intelligence operative from Eastern Europe who had been operating under various false identities across Western Europe for several years. Petrov's background included specialized training in electronic surveillance, infiltration techniques, and communications technology. His presence at Gatcombe Park represented just one operation in what appeared to be an extensive career in corporate and political espionage. The investigation into Petrov's activities revealed a disturbing pattern of successful infiltrations at high-security locations across Europe. Over the past 3 years, he had gained access to government facilities, corporate headquarters, and private residences of prominent individuals, always using his skills as a catering professional to blend seamlessly into the background of formal events and private gatherings. Petrov's operational history included surveillance operations targeting senior military officials in Germany, government ministers in France, and business executives in Switzerland. In each case, sophisticated listening devices had been installed and operated for months before being discovered, if they were discovered at all. The pattern suggested that many similar operations might still be active, with surveillance continuing undetected. The international scope of Petrov's activities required coordination with law enforcement agencies across Europe. Intelligence sharing protocols were activated to compare notes on unsolved security breaches and unexplained intelligence leaks that might be connected to WhisperNet operations. The results were sobering, revealing a pattern of successful espionage that had been operating largely undetected for years. Meanwhile, technical analysis of the surveillance data recovered from the relay station began to yield crucial information about WhisperNet's operational methods and client relationships. The encrypted communications revealed payment structures, operational codes, and fragments of intelligence reports that had been transmitted to various clients over the months that the Princess Anne surveillance had been active. One particularly disturbing discovery was evidence that recordings of Princess Anne's private conversations had been sold to multiple clients, including what appeared to be foreign intelligence services and private organizations with undisclosed agendas. The recordings included sensitive discussions about military matters, government policies, and private family conversations that could be used for political manipulation or blackmail. The implications of this intelligence breach extended far beyond royal privacy concerns. Princess Anne's conversations had included discussions with government ministers about military procurement decisions, charitable activities in politically sensitive regions, and family matters that could affect the public perception of the monarchy. All of this information was now potentially in the hands of unknown entities with unclear intentions. Sarah's investigation team worked around the clock to identify the specific recordings that had been transmitted and the organizations that had purchased them. The task was complicated by WhisperNet's sophisticated encryption and compartmentalized communication systems, but gradually, a picture emerged of a client network that included several foreign governments and private organizations with interests that conflicted with British national security. The discovery that foreign intelligence services had been purchasing recordings of royal family conversations prompted an immediate review of national security protocols and diplomatic relationships. The potential for blackmail or political manipulation using the compromised information created risks that extended to the highest levels of government and international relations. Princess Anne's reaction to learning that her private conversations had been sold to foreign entities demonstrated the strength and dignity that had characterized her entire approach to the crisis. Rather than expressing anger or distress, she focused on ensuring that the investigation had all the resources needed to identify and prosecute those responsible, while implementing security measures to prevent future breaches. The princess's primary concern remained the safety and security of her staff and family members, who might also have been targeted by WhisperNet operations. She authorized comprehensive security reviews of all royal residences and activities, understanding that the surveillance of her private conversations was likely just one component of a much larger intelligence-gathering operation. As the investigation entered its fourth week, international cooperation efforts began to yield results that revealed the true scope of WhisperNet's activities. Intelligence agencies in Germany discovered evidence of similar surveillance operations targeting senior government officials. French authorities identified connections to unexplained security breaches at several government facilities. Swiss investigators found evidence of corporate espionage operations that matched WhisperNet's operational signatures. The pattern that emerged showed an organization operating across national boundaries, with sophisticated resources and extensive client networks. WhisperNet appeared to be functioning as a private intelligence service that could access information that traditional intelligence agencies couldn't obtain through normal diplomatic or espionage channels. The economic model behind WhisperNet's operations became clearer as more financial intelligence was gathered. The organization charged substantial fees for high-value intelligence, with pricing that reflected both the difficulty of obtaining information and the potential value to clients. Recordings of royal family conversations commanded premium prices, particularly when they contained information about government policies or military matters. Evidence suggested that WhisperNet operated multiple surveillance operations simultaneously, with different teams targeting various high-value individuals across Europe. The organization's success depended on maintaining multiple active intelligence sources while avoiding detection by law enforcement and security agencies. The discovery of the Princess Anne operation threatened to expose the entire network. Intelligence analysts working on the case began to identify patterns in WhisperNet's communication systems that might lead to the identification of other active operations. The same encryption signatures and operational codes that had been used in the royal surveillance appeared in communication intercepts from other investigations across Europe, suggesting a network of operations that was much larger than initially suspected. The investigation reached a critical point when surveillance specialists identified active WhisperNet operations in 3 other European countries. Coordinated law enforcement actions would be required to capture the operatives and shut down the intelligence network before evidence could be destroyed or key personnel could escape to locations beyond the reach of European authorities. Sarah found herself at the center of planning for what would become one of the largest coordinated counter-espionage operations in recent European history. The success of the operation would depend on precise timing and coordination between multiple law enforcement agencies, with the goal of simultaneously disrupting WhisperNet operations across several countries while gathering maximum intelligence about the organization's structure and client relationships. The stakes were enormous. Failure to coordinate the operation successfully could result in the destruction of crucial evidence and the escape of key operatives who could rebuild the network elsewhere, Success could potentially expose an intelligence operation that had been compromising European security for years, while remaining largely undetected by traditional counterintelligence efforts. As preparations for the coordinated operations began, Princess Anne continued her normal schedule of public duties, demonstrating her commitment to not allowing security threats to disrupt her royal responsibilities. Her courage and determination in the face of ongoing threats became an inspiration to the investigation team and a reminder of why their work was so important to protecting British institutions and values. The investigation had evolved from a simple security breach into a complex international counter-espionage operation that would test the capabilities of European law enforcement and intelligence agencies. The outcome would determine not only whether those responsible for violating Princess Anne's privacy would face justice, but whether a sophisticated espionage network could be dismantled before causing further damage to European security interests. The Dawn operation began simultaneously across 5 European cities at precisely 6 a.m. on a cold December morning. Detective Inspector Sarah Chen stood in the mobile command center outside a warehouse in East London, watching as tactical teams prepared to execute the most complex counter-espionage operation in recent British history. 4 weeks of intensive investigation had led to this moment, when law enforcement agencies across Europe would attempt to dismantle the Whispernet organization and bring its operatives to justice. The coordination required for the operation was unprecedented. In London, Paris, Berlin, Brussels, and Geneva, specially trained teams were positioning themselves to simultaneously raid Whispernet facilities and arrest key operatives. The element of surprise was crucial, as the organization's sophisticated communication systems meant that any advance warning could result in the destruction of evidence and the escape of personnel to countries beyond European jurisdiction. Sarah's team was responsible for the primary target in London, a seemingly innocent import-export business in an industrial area of East London that intelligence analysis had identified as a major Whispernet operational center. The building housed sophisticated communication equipment, data processing facilities, and what appeared to be a central coordination point for operations across Western Europe. The technical intelligence gathered from the Princess Anne investigation had been crucial in identifying this location. Digital forensics experts had traced communication signatures from the Gatcombe Park surveillance devices to servers housed in the London facility. The same encryption protocols and operational codes that had been used in the royal surveillance were being transmitted from this location to operatives across Europe. Intelligence gathered from international partners had revealed that the London facility was much more than just a communication center. It served as a training location for Whispernet operatives, a storage site for surveillance equipment, and a processing center for intelligence gathered from operations across Europe. The facility represented the operational heart of an organization that had been gathering sensitive information from high-value targets for years. As the tactical teams moved into position around the London facility, similar operations were beginning in the other European cities. Radio communications kept all teams informed of the progress of each operation, maintaining the crucial synchronization that would prevent Whispernet operatives from warning each other of the law enforcement actions. The first breakthrough came from the Berlin operation, where German federal police successfully captured Viktor Petrov, the man who had infiltrated Princess Anne's security under the false identity of Thomas Bradley. Petrov was found at a safe house that contained sophisticated surveillance equipment and false identity documents that could have allowed him to assume new identities and continue his espionage activities. Petrov's capture represented more than just the arrest of a single operative. Intelligence analysis suggested that he was a senior member of the Whispernet organization with detailed knowledge of operational procedures, client relationships, and active surveillance operations. His cooperation with law enforcement could potentially expose the entire network and lead to the recovery of sensitive intelligence that had been gathered from victims across Europe. The London operation began with the tactical team breaching the warehouse facility at exactly 6:15 a.m. Sarah followed the team into the building, finding herself in the center of what appeared to be a sophisticated intelligence processing center that rivaled the capabilities of government agencies. The facility contained multiple computer servers, advanced communication equipment, and workstations equipped with technology for processing intercepted communications and surveillance data. The most significant discovery in the London facility was a comprehensive database containing detailed files on hundreds of surveillance targets across Europe. The database included government officials, military officers, business executives, and prominent public figures who had been monitored by Whispernet operations. Princess Anne's file was extensive, containing transcripts of conversations, analysis of her activities, and assessments of the intelligence value of information gathered from her surveillance. Computer forensic specialists immediately began the complex process of securing and copying the database before it could be destroyed by automated security systems designed to protect sensitive information. The database represented the most comprehensive intelligence coup in the investigation, potentially exposing years of espionage activities and providing evidence for prosecutions across multiple jurisdictions. Among the most disturbing discoveries in the database were detailed profiles of other members of the royal family, government ministers, and senior military officers who had been targeted for surveillance but not yet compromised. The profiles included personal information, daily schedules, security procedures, and assessments of vulnerability to surveillance operations. This information could have been used to plan future operations that might have been even more damaging than the Princess Anne surveillance. The international coordination of the operation proved successful beyond expectations. By noon, law enforcement agencies had arrested 23 suspected WhisperNet operatives across the 5 cities and secured multiple facilities containing evidence of extensive espionage activities. The simultaneous nature of the operations had prevented the destruction of crucial evidence and the escape of key personnel. The evidence recovered from the coordinated raids painted a picture of an organization that had been operating successfully for much longer than initially suspected. Financial records showed that WhisperNet had generated millions of euros from selling intelligence to clients across the globe. Client communications revealed purchases of sensitive information by foreign governments, multinational corporations, and private organizations, with interests that often conflicted with European security and economic interests. One of the most significant developments came when investigators discovered communications suggesting that WhisperNet had been planning an expansion of operations to include targets in North America and Asia. The organization had been investing in new technology and recruiting additional operatives, with the goal of becoming a global intelligence service capable of conducting surveillance operations on any high-value target worldwide. The international implications of WhisperNet's activities prompted immediate diplomatic communications between European governments and countries identified as sources of clients for the organization's services. Several foreign governments found themselves in the embarrassing position of having to explain why their intelligence services had been purchasing illegally obtained surveillance data from a criminal organization. Princess Anne's response to news of the successful operations demonstrated the grace and strength that had characterized her approach to the entire crisis. Her first concern was for the security and well-being of other individuals who had been targeted by WhisperNet operations. She immediately authorized the sharing of relevant information from her case with other victims, understanding that they deserved to know about the violation of their privacy and the potential risks they faced. The princess also took a leading role in reviewing and strengthening security procedures to prevent future surveillance operations. Her experience as a target of sophisticated espionage provided valuable insights into vulnerabilities that needed to be addressed to protect the royal family and government officials from similar threats in the future. The legal proceedings against captured WhisperNet operatives began immediately, with prosecutors across Europe coordinating charges and evidence sharing to ensure that the organization's members faced appropriate consequences for their actions. Viktor Petrov's cooperation with authorities proved valuable in understanding the organization's structure and identifying additional operatives who had not been captured in the initial operations. Petrov's testimony revealed that WhisperNet had been planning even more ambitious operations, including attempts to penetrate government communication systems and military installations. The organization had been developing capabilities that could have posed serious threats to national security if their activities had continued undetected. The technical analysis of recovered equipment revealed innovations in surveillance technology that intelligence agencies had not encountered before. WhisperNet had been developing miniaturized devices with capabilities that surpassed anything available to most government agencies. This technology represented a significant advancement in espionage capabilities that could have given the organization substantial advantages over traditional counter-surveillance methods. The financial investigation into WhisperNet's operations revealed a complex network of shell companies and offshore accounts that had been used to hide the organization's profits and client relationships. The investigation required cooperation from financial authorities across multiple jurisdictions to trace money flows and identify the full scope of the organization's economic activities. Recovery of client communications provided evidence of the damage that WhisperNet's operations had caused to European interests. Sensitive government information had been sold to foreign competitors. Military secrets had been compromised, and private conversations of prominent individuals had been used for blackmail and political manipulation. The full cost of the organization's activities would take years to assess completely. The success of the operation against WhisperNet had broader implications for counterintelligence efforts across Europe. The investigation demonstrated the effectiveness of international cooperation in combating sophisticated espionage threats, and provided valuable intelligence about emerging surveillance technologies and operational methods that would inform future security efforts. For Detective Sergeant Michael Harrison, the successful conclusion of the investigation provided both personal satisfaction and professional validation. His discovery of the listening device in Princess Anne's office had been the first step in exposing an international espionage network that posed significant threats to European security. His dedication to protecting the princess had ultimately contributed to a much larger victory against organized criminal intelligence activities. Princess Anne returned to her normal schedule of royal duties with enhanced security measures and a deeper understanding of the threats posed by modern espionage activities. Her experience as a target of sophisticated surveillance had provided valuable insights that would benefit the security of the entire royal family and contribute to improved protection protocols for government officials and other high-value targets. The Whispernet investigation became a landmark case in European law enforcement, demonstrating both the sophisticated threats posed by organized criminal intelligence activities and the effectiveness of international cooperation in combating such threats. The lessons learned from the investigation would influence counterintelligence efforts for years to come, helping to protect democratic institutions and prominent individuals from similar threats in the future. The successful dismantling of Whispernet sent a strong message to other criminal organizations considering similar activities. The international cooperation that made the operation successful demonstrated that sophisticated espionage threats would be met with equally sophisticated law enforcement responses, backed by the full resources of European intelligence and security services. As the legal proceedings continued and the full scope of Whispernet activities became clear, the investigation that began with a routine security sweep at Gatcombe Park had evolved into one of the most significant counter-espionage successes in recent European history. The privacy and security of Princess Anne had been restored, but more importantly, a significant threat to European security had been eliminated. Through the dedication and professionalism of law enforcement officers and intelligence specialists working together across national boundaries, the case served as a reminder that in an era of advancing technology and global connectivity, protecting privacy and security requires constant vigilance and international cooperation. The successful resolution of the Princess Anne surveillance case demonstrated that even the most sophisticated criminal organizations could be defeated when law enforcement agencies worked together with determination, resources, and skill.